I think what she's talking about is basically a SWAT team here. When you've got all these alphabet soup of agencies with the, CMS and HHS and FDA, and what she's saying is, let's get some people together that actually are monitoring these drug prices, so that instead of the response of people like me going on, I'm outraged, and getting a letter and asking questions, why don't we methodically go through these drug prices and try to figure out, when you have a case like Mylan, with EpiPen that was clearly out of sync, from $100 to $600, a 400 to 500% price increase, and actually respond more methodically by either allowing in on an emergency basis drugs from other countries. That's encouraging competition, something that Senator McCain and I have put forth. So it's a bipartisan proposal, stopping those pay-for delays. We've talked about that. And then also, as she said today, some increased fines and penalties. We need incentives to stop them from doing this.
I think that there are a few people out there who will say that drug prices should shoot to the sky as far as they can go. And so, in theory, would approve of such a SWAT team. But the devil's in the details, Senator. So in terms of this group of people, how do they go about, how would you direct this team, for instance, to find what is egregious out there? Is it a % increase that's going to trigger action at this point? I mean, do you go through product portfolios of the major pharma companies and say, this is too high, this is too high, this is okay, this is too high? How does it work?
Well, I think exactly. Well, what you're doing here, and you would need economists involved and people, experts in this area, but what you'd be doing is looking at, sure, there's production and innovation changes sometimes that cause price increases. So you look at that, the value to the patients, the value to the customers. But we can't have this situation continue where we're just responding years later and suddenly realizing that these prices have gone up, or what we just discovered today after a few of us, and I led the way, asking in a letter to CMS, hey, what's happening with how much the government is paying Mylan with Medicaid and S-CHIP and with the Medicare program? And out of the blue now we find out, oh, hey, they probably misclassified this. And so your state alone, Senator, to me, is this year alone, $4 million is owed back from Mylan. That's the estimate.
But how exactly, Senator, would it work? Because drugs are not commodities, right, when they're developed anyway. So what are you going to do? Have government workers go into a pharmaceutical company and say, we need to know exactly how much you spent to develop this product, and then we're going to tell you how much you can charge for it? How would this work in practicality? Because some drugs cost hundreds of millions of dollars to develop. Some you spend $100 million on and you get nothing for it at the end.
Well, how this would work is you're looking at the trajectory of these price increases instead of having 5 different agencies. And I have seen this work before in government when we've tackled a problem like tourism and looking at how we make it easier for foreign tourists, how we take on something with pricing in certain markets. I don't think it's bad, instead of just having it come out on the news, to figure out what's happening with this market prices.
But it's not just coming out of the news, Senator. I mean, to be fair, I mean, nobody's trying to defend any side here. We're just trying to get some answers. It doesn't just come out on the news. The Mylan EpiPen price increases, for instance, happened over years. It wasn't just overnight that they increased 600+%.
That is exactly
and the
right,
state
Melissa.
of Minnesota has been paying increased prices every single year, but only now is saying you overcharge. So what happened in your own state, Senator, for it to go undetected, and now it becomes some sort of a rallying cry to regulate the drug industry?
Well, in my mind, you're basically making the case for Hillary's plan, because what you're saying is, yeah, all that data is out there, but no one's doing anything about it. So let's get negotiation on Medicare Part D, which she proposed over a year ago. Let's stop these pay-for-delay deals that Senator Grassley and I have a bill to do. Let's get some competition in from other countries, and then let's have better enforcement. All that is about, her plan today, is enforcement when we start seeing these outrageous prices. So you have to look at the last year where she has actually been taking this on, put forward are not wild ideas. They're ideas that are supported by a number of Republicans like Grassley and McCain. And let's stop basically, let's be honest, your pharma has been stopping these proposals from advancing in Congress. And I would love to have a president that's taking this on and getting it done.
Okay, but Senator, again, here's an article in the Wall Street Journal. I'm going to read you the title. Drug prices rise despite calls for cuts. And it talks about how over 5 years, prices went up 6, 7, 8%. That article was written in March of 2011. 5 and a half years ago. And yet now suddenly it's this crisis. My point is that in 2003, before your time in the Senate, we had these hearings about housing and mortgages, and Fannie Mae was out of control, and everybody was pounding the table. Guess what? Nothing got done, and the housing bubble collapsed. How do we know this time Congress is going to do something? Because let's be perfectly honest. Congress has been complaining about this for years, but has done nothing for years.
Every time I try to get a vote or try to move one of these bills, I'm stopped in my tracks, and I'm sick of it. And the fact that I have someone...
Who's stopping you?
You cannot get votes on these things because there's a lot of people that are beholden to pharma that don't want these bills to move forward. And that is the facts. You can ask anyone and they'll tell you off the record.
You're saying pharmaceutical lobbying efforts, let's be clear with what you're saying, Senator. Pharmaceutical lobbying efforts may be delaying votes in Congress. That's the bottom line.
Yes. And so the fact that you have someone running for president who is talking about this in a bigger way than we've seen before with some specific proposals with penalties and fines, and the fact that we now have the American public's attention on this with a life-saving product like EpiPen that so many kids carry around in their backpacks, that is making a difference, yes. And the fact that you look under the hood of one drug company, and believe me, it's not just Mylan, and start seeing this stuff that's going on with Medicaid overcharging, I think it's going to change the trajectory of this issue. So as horrible as this EpiPen experience has been, for me, it's a silver lining. And I am all ready to go on this, and I think a lot of people are too. We cannot afford to pay these prices. Ask the insurance companies. They're screwed by this too.
Yeah.
These increased prices are being paid by all taxpayers.
Blue Cross
and not
just dropped
by
out of Obamacare
users.
in your state. Blue Cross of Minnesota dropping out of the Affordable Care Act because of price, because they lost what, $260 million?
Yeah. Is there any bone in your body, Senator, that is concerned that overregulation of the drug industry will result in less research and development and fewer life-saving drugs actually reaching the market?
Well, I think that's why we go this approach that Secretary Clinton has suggested here, which is looking at not taking on every increase in the country, of course not, but looking at what are these outrageous policies, putting people on notice that people are going to start looking at these in a more aggressive way, because of course we don't want to stop the life-saving drug industry. It's one of the industries that have saved lives in our country. It is one of the industries that have come up with innovations that employs people in America, but we all have to acknowledge that this is getting out of hand. We have to take a targeted approach to increases, and then we also have to allow for more competition by passing some of these bills that we've had out there, as you've so well pointed out, for years.
Last question. In your own state, Senator, is your state reviewing all that it has paid to various drug companies to make sure that it's not doing the same that it has done with Mylan, as you are alleging here?
Well, that's what I am, first of all, asking on a national basis, that CMS, and I've asked for an FTC investigation.
And your state is
doing the same? They look at this with all drugs. In my own state, I know our Attorney General today just put out a request for documents for Mylan. I will talk to her about looking at other ones as well. I mean, when states get ripped off, it means taxpayers get ripped off. It means other businesses get ripped off. And so if we can fix this so that it's on a competitive direction like we wanted, a trajectory where you have competitors enter the market and you get reduced prices when that happens, everyone will be better off. And in the long term, the drug companies will be better off because we'll be encouraging innovation and competition.
I want to be clear what you just said, Senator, because I don't know if it's out there, and if it is out there already, my apologies. I can't keep track of everything. I do my best. Your state's AG is asking for documents?
From Mylan, yes.
And they just sent that out today?
Records.
Is that this morning?
It just came out today. I got the email while I was waiting on the commercial break on your show. So
literally
that's why
minutes
you didn't
ago.
know it. You were doing your show.
So do you get the sense that other AGs in other states are doing the same?
I don't know that. I just know that we're doing it here in Minnesota because I put out the figure this morning, just the estimates we were getting from the state was that it could be $4 million owed on this one drug because of Medicaid rebates, and that's just Medicaid.
Is the intent that the AG would sue?
I don't know what the AG is going to do. I just know if this is true about Minnesota with one drug, that because it was misclassified and basically classified as a generic when Mylan filed it, that under the Medicaid rebate rules means that Minnesota paid $4 million extra than they're supposed to. If that is true, can you imagine the numbers across the country?
Hey CNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Here you're going to find videos packed with all of the information that you need to be smarter about your finances. You can subscribe by clicking right here and click on all the videos around me or the eye right here to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.